I like games. I play a lot of games. I've played like every card game. I have thousands of hours across multiple MMORPGs. I've got all of these tabletop RPG systems, including Be Like a Cat. You wanna know how many of these I've ran? 0. The books are so cool though. I even play Warhammer. Like, somebody please save me. But in the past year, Flesh and Blood has completely consumed me. It is my favorite game, not even close, bar none. And I've been trying to figure out why Flesh and Blood specifically has just resonated so hard with me. And I've thought back to all of the other games that I've played way too many hours of in the past, and something started to occur to me, which is Flesh and Blood is basically all of my favorite game genres packed into one. And so in this video, I'm going to explain the ways that Flesh and Blood is some of your favorite games. Maybe if you're not traditionally a competitive card game player, this will make you curious enough to give it a try. So we'll start with the first and most obvious parallel, and that is Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator. So the first one I want to go over is nothing new. This is something that I've heard talked about a lot, but that is fighting games. There's a content creator by the name of _Tome. I'm going to link their video in the description. They have a video called Flesh and Blood is a Fighting Game, and that is going to go over in more detail what I'm going to talk about a little bit here. When you start to break down the individual components of what makes a fighting game, and what makes Flesh and Blood, you start to see a lot of parallels. One of the most obvious comparisons is that we have definitive character archetypes, right? Fighting games, you have your various character archetypes, and not only do we also have that in Flesh and Blood, but I think that they kind of line up pretty well with each other. So we have our rushdowns, we have our shotos, we have our grapplers, our zoners, we even have puppet characters. You could argue that we now have a stance character thanks to Arachne Marionette, but you get the idea. Another thing is in the gameplay, even though a fighting game is a real-time game versus Flesh and Blood's turn-based game, you can sort of think of fighting games as turn-based once you get to a certain level of mastery in the game. Two players of the same high skill level will understand sequences of attacks that they can expect from their opponent, and they will know that they have to block this certain sequence of attacks before they get an opening to start their offense. And that sounds a lot like Flesh and Blood, right? If there's a lot of aggression coming towards you, you might have to block, or maybe there's an important on-hit that you don't want to get smacked by, so you have to block then, and then your turn and your turn's offense will be dictated by how much you had to block. They're really not so different when you start to think about it. A quick shout out for you gacha gamers out there. Not only are booster packs the perfect little gacha pulls, but we even have anime waifus.
God damn. Oh my god! Woo! Oh boy. Oh, sweet Jesus Christ.
Another genre that I want to talk about, and this again isn't 100% unique to Flesh and Blood, but for you roguelite enjoyers out there, let me talk to you for a second about Limited. So Limited is either a draft or sealed format, most commonly draft, and what that means is instead of showing up to the event with your pre-constructed deck, you're gonna sit in a circle of 8 people, you're gonna have 3 packs in front of you, and you're gonna open a pack, pick a card, pass the pack, get a pack, and you're gonna do that all the way around with 3 packs, and so you're building a deck on the fly based on the sorts of cards that come your way. And this feels very roguelite to me. And something about Flesh and Blood that makes it feel a little more true to the roguelite experience as opposed to drafting in something like Magic the Gathering or another trading card game is that there are these heroes associated with the draft pools. Let's use a recent set, The Hunted, for example. So you might open a pack and you could see a card that is playable in 2 of the 3 heroes. Or you might see a really good card for one of the heroes and you're already making decisions, okay, what class am I going to be in this particular draft run? And that feels a lot more true to the character building aspect of some of my favorite roguelite games. Another thing that makes Flesh and Blood really cool is every different set very much feels like an expansion of what would be a roguelite experience. You have brand new heroes, brand new skills, it's a completely new environment of enemies you're fighting. So I think roguelite players would have a lot to enjoy from Flesh and Blood. All right, this last one is a long one, but it encompasses so many different subgenres, and I feel like Flesh and Blood kind of checks a box or two on each of these different ones. So let's talk about RPGs. Flesh and Blood is so like so many role-playing games in so many ways, and as somebody who has spent way too much of their life playing World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, old school RuneScape, Star Wars The Old Republic, Lost Ark, I mean, I need to touch some grass. That's why it's a really good thing that I go to Flesh and Blood tournaments. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch grass ever. So let's start with the broader aspects of what makes Flesh and Blood so much a role-playing game at heart. Obviously, we've got the character building, and Flesh and Blood hits this character fantasy and immersion better than any other card game, even the other leader-based card games, in its modularity and in its long-term considerations to the player, I suppose. So no matter what background you're coming from, what class, what specialization you played, I promise you, there's a Flesh and Blood hero for you. We have our fire mages, and we have our ice mages, and we have earth and lightning mages. We have our frost death knight. We have our various flavors of summoner. We have mechanologists. We have a necromancer, and he's a freaking pirate. So no matter what type of character you typically like playing in an MMO, even down to like being a damage dealer, a tank, a healer, obviously you're gonna have to kill your opponent in this game, but you can get flavors of any of those sorts of roles within your Flesh and Blood hero. And so then it breaks down even further and we get to the hero customization. We have 4 armor slots, we have 2 weapon slots, and then we have a deck of 60 cards. And those 60 cards are your skills and your actions basically. And as far as the weapons and the armor goes, you have so many choices depending on what you expect to have to play against, what you want to do for your particular strategy. It becomes so customizable, and you can spend so much time just thinking about how you want to outfit and customize your hero going into each tournament. And now we have to talk about tournaments and what really makes Flesh and Blood like a PvP-centric MMO. It also taps into my personal favorite part of MMO gaming, and that is grinding for loot. And that's what the armory scene, and later on, of course, higher tier events, is all about. Let me explain. Let me paint a hypothetical scenario for you that's honestly not so far off from my first weeks playing the game. So I'm a newer player. I bought a KO Armory deck, joined a local Discord, posted that I was going to be going to my first armory that week. Some of the locals had extra brute cards that they were able to bring to the armory, so I'm rolling up with stock KO Armory deck plus a few copies of Blood Rush Bellows. Not bad. Somehow I managed to win a game and I get a couple of prize packs. I did a little research beforehand, and I know that the Heavy Hitters expansion is full of upgrades for KO, so I get that for my prize packs. Maybe I'll pull a couple cast bones, maybe I'll get a send packing. What I would love to get is Apex Bonebreaker. That's a legendary piece of equipment for KO. It's the best arm slot for him. It would be a huge upgrade. So I open the prize packs. First one doesn't have anything, but the second pack has a legendary in it, and it's not Apex Bonebreaker, but it's this headpiece, Balance of Justice. And everyone around me is like, holy crap, dude, you did it. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And they're like, that's basically the best thing you could pull in the set. I'm like, holy dopamine hit. This is amazing. It feels like the first time you get a big drop in old school RuneScape and you want to screech and make bizarre noises, but you're in public, so you probably shouldn't do that.
The dead fucking boss, dude.
Pick it up.
So now I've got this Balance of Justice. I get to post it in the trading channel of the local Flesh and Blood Discord, and I get to set up a trade at the next armory. Boom, Balance of Justice becomes Apex Bonebreaker, the cast bones, a couple send packings, and suddenly my deck is looking way stronger than last week. And this ties into another part of what makes Flesh and Blood feel a lot like another aspect of MMOs, and that is engaging with the market and the in-game economy and trading with other players. Something that I've found happens way more often in Flesh and Blood than when I was playing other card games is that people are very excited to participate in local trading, and it happens all the time at the armories. I get that there are concerns right now regarding the price of Flesh and Blood, and in some aspects I can agree, but overall, I am somebody who really wants their cards to have value. Do I think Riches of Tripledani should be a $300 generic fabled? Maybe not. But overall, I think we're in a pretty good place. And to that point, it makes trading exciting, and it makes people want to trade. So at the end of your game, if you've got some time before the next round starts, ask your opponent, hey, do you got trades? They could have a lot of cards that you might want either for your hero, or maybe you're interested in building another hero, but you don't necessarily just want to buy the deck outright. Well, you can start to trade up for it. And now we're not only participating in the market board of this in-game economy, but we're now also opening ourselves themselves up to horizontal progression, which is something that so many MMOs struggle with and is something that makes Flesh and Blood really exciting. If I am a Draconic Warrior player, but I want to start looking into Lightning Wizard cards, there's not a lot of crossover there deck to deck. Trading is a perfect way to facilitate that. So for those of you who love to bank stand in Varrock or just play the auction house in Stormwind, I think you could have a lot of fun here too. And also there is just something so special about actually being able to hold your loot, especially with artwork this good. And this last little part, and this kind of goes in hand with what we were just talking about, but the social hub aspect of an online game is something that a lot of people take for granted, but a lot of people really appreciate in online games, and I get it. I've made some really great friends online, and sometimes if you're playing World of Warcraft and the raid's over, but you don't want to do any more content, but you don't want to log off yet, maybe you just hang out in town, you know? You do some crafting, you show off some loot, you link some items that you're looking for, you just hang out with the people that you wanted to play the game with, and you talk about the game that you love to play. And so for Flesh and Blood, and this is so incredibly true for me, the friends that I've made in the last year going to my armories a few times a week, these are some of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. And they are people that I'm hanging out with all the time. We're talking about the game every day. We're traveling to events together. We are getting together on off armory nights just to do more playtesting. And when we go out to dinner after events or whatever else, they're just good people to hang out with. I don't know what it is about this game, but it draws a very particular crowd of people that I have been super jiving with. They are nice, they are inviting. Our scene keeps growing because people show up and they're like, wow, this is a great group of people to hang out with. And this game rocks. And let's be real, in 2025, how the hell do people make friends anymore? So, if you are somebody who enjoys the social engagement aspect of online games, I cannot recommend enough. Reach out to your local scene, find out how you can get into Flesh and Blood, and just go hang out with some cool people and play some good games. So for all of you fighting game, roguelite, MMO, PvP, gacha, game enjoyers, I think there's something for you in Flesh and Blood. And if you're anything like me, you're gonna try it out and you're gonna love it. So Flesh and Blood is every game. It's all of them. It's every game.